welcome back to the Evan Miller Report here on the SHR Media Networks. I'm Jason Miller. Corey Evan back with the business news in about 10 minutes' time. Children today received 69 doses of vaccines for 16 different viral and bacterial illnesses, which more than doubles the government childhood schedule of 34 doses of 11 different vaccines in the year 2000. 35 doses and 5 more unique vaccines have been added to the schedule in the last 15 years. A vaccine exemption is filled regardless of whether the exemption is for one dose or for all doses. Those supporting forced vaccination are being dishonest by not acknowledging the exploding vaccine schedule while sounding alarms over small increases in overall non-medical exemptions. That comes as California has a bill in the legislature right now by the name of SB 277, which is supposed to allow the government to vaccinate your children without parental permission. And we are pleased to be joined now on the air now by Assemblyman Devon from Kern County here in California. And Assemblyman, thank you for being with us tonight. I'd like to first start out to ask you, how did this bill come about?
Well, when I first heard about it, Oh.
Yes, I'm still here, Assemblyman.
Okay. It was hey, let's get rid of these things. Let's make sure our children are taken care of. Which all sounds great. But when you dig into it and you start looking at it even more, what you realize, like you already said, Jason, is that this is actually taking away the parental right to say, well, wait a minute, maybe my child's immune system isn't the same as everybody else's. We're all different. We're all human. There's different things, and everybody's level is different with their immunities. And to sit here and say, okay, one size fits all, that's not a decision made by the government. It should not be. It breaks our parental rights. This is a conversation that needs to be between the parents and the doctor to go, this is my child, here's what's going on. Is this safe for them? Is this okay? What are the cause and effect? And by all means, I definitely want to clarify. It's not that I'm against vaccinations. I'm all for vaccines to take care of people, to make sure it's safe. But to take away a parental right to do a mandatory vaccination is just wrong.
Now, you're not only opposed to this because of the you are opposed to this because of the parental rights issue. Let me rephrase how I was going to ask the question. But you have also 2 special needs children, and
yes.
That's why the reason you and your wife are opposing the likes of this bill.
Yes.
Would you like to expand on that? Tell us a little bit more about that and how this bill would harm your children.
It's one of those undetermining factors. I know there was a lot of talk. My oldest son, he's autistic, and I know there's a whole bunch of junk about how vaccines cause autism. I think that's a bunch of BS. But I think there's certain factors that weigh in that we just don't know the full answers on yet, because there hasn't been enough studies done. There hasn't been enough things done. My other son has, he was born with spina bifida. I'm not going to sit here and go, okay, he needs to be vaccinated on this when he may already have an immune system problem or something like that. That's unforeseen. So to sit here and go, okay, we're going to vaccinate you right off the bat, it's, with a lot of things and a lot of vaccinations, it's you let yourself build up natural immunities. I mean, when I was a kid, it was, God made dirt don't hurt, and build up your immunity. Now it's, let's disinfect everything and give everybody shots. And there's a natural immune system that we have, and when you talk to, there's a lot of doctors that agree with that, and to have the government go, forget your immune system, we're going to say, here's your vaccination, that's the way it's going to be. I don't agree with that.
I want to ask you because some school districts, and I'm not going to say all because I can't speak for the whole state of California, but there are certain school districts here in the state of California saying that your kid needs to be vaccinated or else they're not going to be allowed to come to school. Yeah,
I thought that was a statewide requirement, wasn't it, Jay?
Yeah, I thought that was a statewide requirement. At least that's what I heard 2 years ago. Now, if this bill passes, Assemblyman, this essentially will take this out of the parents' hands, and on top of it, the school can now force the parents to say, hey, you have to give your kids vaccinations or else they're not going to be able to come to school, and then you have Child Protective Services coming and knocking on your door saying, well, why isn't your kid coming to school?
Well, I mean, this is clearly a slippery slope of vaccinations. I mean, it's, we give them this much, then they're going to take even more. You give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. It's that whole if you give a mouse a cookie.
Well,
I didn't go to war. I didn't get blown up twice in Iraq to come home to go, oh, and my parental rights don't matter now.
Yeah, you make
it's bad enough that we came home to the situation it is.
Yeah, you make a great point, Assemblyman, because there was a child over in the UK. Maybe you remember the story about a few months back. There was a kid over in the UK who was getting chemo treatment for his cancer. And his parents decided to tell the doctors in the UK, okay, we don't agree with your set treatment here of what you want to do. So we're going to take him over to Spain for a experimental treatment and try that on him. And the UK didn't like that very much, that they were going outside the UK for medical treatment, so they put an international arrest warrant out through the European Union for the kid's parents. I fear, sir, that if this bill is allowed to pass through the state of California, it's going to lead like that parents will not be able to make medical decisions on their kids, not only when it comes to vaccinations, but just for overall medical treatment.
Yeah, and like I said, it's one of those incremental things. We give up this right, and then the next thing they know, like you said, they're going to take something else. And this is one of those, we need to stop it here and make sure that our parents have the ability to sit down with doctors and go, this is what's best for my child. I represent, several different communities. I have a small piece of Kern. I have all, Tulare County. I have all of Inyo County. I have a large district that I represent, but up here in Sacramento, I'm not just making decisions for my district. I'm making decisions for the entire state of California. And, there are so many different cultural backgrounds, community backgrounds, different belief systems that weigh in here. And, there's a lot of talk about, religious rights and these different things, floating across the nation right now, too. And to sit here and say, okay, we're going to cut into your culture and say you have to do something that you full-heartedly believe as a parent and were taught and raised, it's just wrong.
It certainly is. Corey Evan, you have a question for the Assemblyman.
Yeah, I've noticed that over the years they've been adding to the requirements, like around, 2000 they had to add the hepatitis B requirement, and now I think the newest requirement added was the whooping cough one. But you also know that these things aren't tested for, allergic reactions in the kids. What do you have to say about that?
That's one of those scary things we face as parents. It's how is this going to be affected? What is going to happen to my child? And I don't want to get into, the whole argument like with the autism thing because that was found out to be completely debunked. But the fact when we got to start looking at things, that where parents are losing their children because they're not vaccinating them, that's just wrong. There's so many cultural things. Now, to add different, hey, you need to take this, you need to take this. Look, I was a soldier. I was a sergeant for 10 years. I've got so many different vaccinations running through me where I could use anthrax as sugar. But it doesn't mean that these need to happen to children, because I saw soldiers get sick and end up, sick for weeks because, something that we didn't know that they had a reaction to. And I understand military going to foreign countries, but we're talking about children playing on a playground here.
Yeah, that's true. And I should note, ladies and gentlemen, Assemblyman Devon served, I believe it was 2 tours in Iraq, and you have seen it all, Assemblyman. You've been one of the rare people who has actually seen it all. You've seen disease break out. You've seen people get their limbs blown off. You've seen it all, and so you sort of you have the right to tell people here because you've experienced it. You have a very interesting opinion to put forth when it comes to this. I appreciate you coming out and speaking to this, sir. Now, when is this supposed to hit the legislative floor here in the state of California?
Okay, let's see here. On Wednesday, April 8th, it will hit the Senate Health Committee. So I encourage any parents out there, anybody who's concerned, to come down, because you all may not know this, but you have every right to come down and have your voice heard during the public comments during that hearing, and I encourage everybody to do so.
Now, for people outside Sacramento, is there a telephone number that they can call, a way they, or should they just be encouraged to call their assemblymen and senators?
Yeah, absolutely. Call your local assembly members, call your local senators. I mean, blow up their phones. Let them know how you feel. Let them know you do not want your rights as a parent to be taken away from you.
And ladies and gentlemen, I should note a great way to get a hold of government officials is by fax machine. So if you go to the State of California website and go to where your official is, if they have a fax number on there, fax over your opposition and just and say no to this. And here's a simple thing on how you do it. You just say no on SB 277, oppose medicated vaccinations. You write that on the fax in big letters, you fax it over, you fax it all over the state. My goodness, we will get the message out if you do that.
Jason, here's an even easier way. Y'all pull out your smartphone, click your internet app, hit your Google, pull up your local representative, click there, and it'll give you an email where you can get a hold of them.
Sounds that I actually did not think of it that way, sir. But I appreciate that. I'm sort of a new old technology type,
Yeah, I do have the one thing of being the youngest Republican in this building. So.
Oh well, I think we'll take that as a compliment, sir. And you know what, sir? For not being interviewed very much, you're very energetic and you sound great on the radio this evening, sir. And before we go, I noticed here, I got your bio here, and I noticed that you serve on the Water, Parks, and Wildlife Committee as well as the Horticulture Committee. I wanted to get your opinion on the current decision by Jerry Brown to put these drought restrictions and water restrictions here in the state of California. If you could speak to that, what your opinion is and what you're going to do about it.
Well, it's about time the rest of the state catches up. My district, I've got several cities that have cut back already more than what the governor's asking in his restrictions. I've been talking since day one about, hey, what's the plan? And, I get back, things about, low-flow toilets or this, and to finally see the governor step up and use his authority to go, hey, we need to address this problem and start doing something, I see that as a good thing. However, when we start talking about, okay, don't water your lawn, don't do this, what are we doing to protect ourselves from, getting a ticket for having a dead lawn? Those things are never mentioned. And so those are conversations that I'm having with my local, with the city councils, with the county, reaching out to HOAs to make sure, as people don't water their lawns because we want to save every drop of water, that they're not going to get a ticket on the other side of that.
Yeah, well,
so, we got to make sure we're looking at the full aspect of things.
Yeah,
it really is a classic double-edged sword.
Yeah, and we had our correspondent Orlene Kurla on last week, and a lady up in Northern California got fined $150 for just filling her bird bath. This is ridiculous to me. And we have people who are getting the likes of water rationing. There was a story last night on Los Angeles television saying that California water authorities in Long Beach are now using smart meters to meter people's usage of water. This is ridiculous.
Well, you give them an inch, they take a mile. So we've got to continue to fight and make sure that, what not just myself, but everybody else who went to war to protect is actually being protected. And that way everybody at home, I believe in people over politics. I believe in governments by the people, for the people, and that the people are the ones that we work for. And that we need to make sure when we go back home, when we're doing our job as legislatures, that we're asking and talking to the people, what do we need to do for you?
Now, I understand over in your district, which I believe is Kern County, you have
let me clarify. I've got a small part of Kern County. My majority is Tulare County.
Okay. All right. I understand, sir. Explain to us about how these water restrictions affect you, because you have a huge water package over in your district.
Yeah, I do, and it's with Tulare County is number one in ag. It's the home of the World Ag Expo. Kern County is number two in ag. When you're looking at a lot of the criticisms you hear are, one almond is a gallon of water, which, okay, whatever. The fact of the matter is that one almond, that 1 gallon of water creates how many jobs along the way? It comes down to the fact of you're talking about people who are working on the farms, people who are working in food processing plants, in packing sheds, all the way to cold storage, all the way to these dock workers who went on strike because they wanted more money. All of these people's jobs and livelihoods are affected by this. And I hope people start waking up, and I hope other legislatures wake up and realize that they're not just hurting a farmer's pocketbook, they're hurting everybody across the entire state and across the country and around the globe by affecting food that's growing. As far as cities in my area and cutting back, we're already exceeding the expectations. We've been doing it for over a year because we've been without water in certain parts of my district. I have Eastside Porterville. I grew up in Porterville. It's my hometown. And to see my hometown look like a third world country where we have to bring in water is just ridiculous. I did not go to war for that, sir.
Wow. That being said, what would you have to say to Governor Brown right now, who says that that the farmers who are getting an exemption from this water crisis only equivalates up to 2% of the population? What would you have to say to him?
My thing to him right now is follow through. Step up, provide leadership, follow through, make sure people are getting taken care of, and that doesn't mean just restricting use. You can only ask somebody to not take a shower for so long. I lived where, in 2003 when I went to Iraq for the first time at the beginning of the war, we were rationed 2 bottles of water a day in an MRE. Should that ever happen here in California, where we claim we're the 7th largest economy in the world, where we could be our own country if we wanted to, but yet we have third world country problems in our own backyard? That's a joke. We need to step up. We need to take care of people and do what's right.
Wow. I couldn't agree with you more, Assemblyman. Assemblyman Devon Mathis, thank you so much for coming on, explaining this to us, and for our listeners here in the state of California. Email your assemblyman. If you don't have a computer, you can email, fax. Just fax it over. Voice your opposition to this, because your voices need to be heard, not only due to the water issue, but the way of mandatory vaccines and how the government can take control of your kids so easily by one small bill. You give them one bill, they're going to take over all of our lives. Thank you so much, Assemblyman. Please keep us updated on that bill's progress and if it ends up hitting that Senate floor.
All right, Jason. Thank you for having me on. You guys take care.
All right. Thank you, sir. That was Assemblyman Devon Mathis joining us to discuss the the mask of mandatory vaccines here in the state of California, as well as speaking to the water restrictions that Governor Jerry Brown put into effect last week. I'm Jason Miller. You're listening to the Evan Miller Report, and we will be right back after these messages.